You can push. Great. Yeah. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining tonight. Claire, Tony, Garrett, Wendy, Vern, Gio. I see even Gio. Gio, Rosa, sweetheart, you're also there. Good. So
Oh, Gio's here. Right. Okay.
just for the new watchers, maybe. So just a little short introduction. Last times I've not done this type of introduction because most of the time it's always the same people joining. But yeah, this is not a teaching. Nothing is taught here, although this may sound as a teaching already. I mean, you're teaching what a teaching is. So yes, this may sound as a teaching, but there's no intention here to teach. Nor is this a higher truth. But then again, claiming that this is a higher truth or not, or hearing these so-called non-duality meetings and thinking that is close to the truth, is this already? So the suggestion here, so to say, is that there's just this innocent, and I talked about it with Tony earlier today, this innocent, spontaneous, effortless dance of happenings, or we can say there's just beingness or awareness or whatever word is being given, or God, which may include the idea that there is a you and something else, or the sensation that there is a you as a doer in this. It's all just simply what it is. It's an undivided, innocent stream of happenings, and there's no you as a separated doer doing life or doing awareness or there to be beingness or there to become beingness. It's all beingness, it's all just simply this. And not even as there isn't an actual this as an object which is doing some stuff or no stuff already. So that's a little bit a short intro, and it's an open meeting. Everyone is welcome. Here there's no asking to agree with anything which is being suggested or said, or as I used to say, liking the words coming out or not liking the words are as innocently as the words tumbling out of a face, as is the liking them or the not liking them. And this may change from going to these meetings regular to at one point saying, fuck you, I don't want to go anymore. It's all just bullshit. I go to the traditional stuff. There isn't actually a thing called non-duality to begin with, and a thing called duality as two separate things or no things apart from each other. Um, but then again, it seems to be language who is creating a world where there's a you amongst other so-called other things, or there's a separated you amongst other beings. There may be a strong sensation, feeling that this physical form is who I am. And when that feeling or sensation is very strong, as this is me, I am the body, then what is seen is doership. Personal doership is only seen because there's a strong sense to be a doer. Or when there's a strong sense of me, this is me, there's obviously also a strong sense of others. When there's no sense of me or a belief of me, there's nor others nor me. It's just simply what it is. Unnameable, unfuckable. It's already this raw, naked directness of sitting in a Zoom, seeing a bunch of faces. There's a recognition of certain faces. There has been conversations. There's a liking. This is it. So welcome everybody. Carrie, nice to see you also for joining. Gio, you said that you probably would do something with your wife. I'm happy to see you here. Fern, I don't know. Tony was saying you were here already. I was not sure, but Tony was totally sure that you joined the meeting. Maybe, I don't know, but welcome today, Fern.
Thank you. Pleasure, lovely to be here.
Great. So, yeah, I heard that Tony and Claire, they were like going at each other already in the beginning. So maybe, to clear the air, the so So go ahead, guys. What's up there? Is it a Facebook post? Is one attacking the other, or is one pulling the other's tail? Tell me, what's up?
Actually, Sander, Vern was on Claire's therapy Zoom,
Hmm?
not on your
Ah,
Zoom. I just realized. Yeah.
no problem.
It's I don't know. I mean, Tony and I we're friends, right? There's no, as far as I'm concerned, there's no issue whatsoever. We had that chat about the gold at the end of the rainbow, which there was this
We're
sort of
best
idea.
buddies.
The, but you can, I think it's perfectly okay to have different ideas about things and also be friends. So Tony was
yes.
saying that there's somewhere to get, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with non-duality, and there's this idea that if you meditate, then there is the end of thinking, which is lovely. And you mentioned that in one of my posts today, again, Tony, saying that you agree with Fern, who says that
The pot of gold was your phrase, not mine, right?
It was mine.
Oh no, it was Sylvan. Sorry,
Oh,
yes, it was
okay,
Sylvan.
okay. We got a third one.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah. You're such a troublemaker, Sylvan.
So, but I think it's a nice subject because, you know, for some who have joined these meetings a couple of times, so here it seems not to play that way. That there was a doing, and then suddenly out of that doing, this was how it seems to be. It was already just simply this from the start. So I cannot talk about, doing stuff and then there will be a pot of gold. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with the sense or the conclusion or the belief or the feeling that any type of meditation or practice will lead to a certain collapse of the illusion or the collapse of the me or the sense of separation. This, it's all, that's it too. I mean, it's just simply how it seems to play. So there can be a very strong sense of feeling separate, and this sense may well go with certain practices. Here there was no such sense, as most of you know, so I cannot talk about doing, and that's not completely true because there was a lot of kriyas and stuff, but it was, when there was a time of kriyas, there was already no sense of separation or a sense of lack. There was just an exploration, and that was, playing out in doing kriyas and yogas, but there was no additional goal to reach somewhere, to get something. So there's nothing wrong, about doing practices, as there's nothing wrong with playing tennis. Um, the whole thing, which seems to be misunderstood, is, the practices, from this so-called point of view, are already empty. There's already no one as a separated doer doing the practices. There's just simply a body functioning, going to the toilet or doing practices. It's all the same. It's just a body moving. And, that sense of you being the body, or I am the body, or I'm the doer, or I'm in the body, may be there or not. But it doesn't matter. It's already innocent. So the sense that you are the body, or the lack of that sense, is not done by you. It's not ended by you. Although this may seem, by certain individuals having a strong sense of this is who I am, that it's done by another. That's the whole thing. So Tony, I love Tony's always talking about meditation and the prophet, and there's no disagreeing with him. It's just simply not how it seems to play here. So Claire, back to you. I know you're not, you're no enemies. This was not how I meant it to be, but there seems to be a lot of posts on Facebooks, and then someone is pulling the other one's tail. It's like it seems to be a certain type of game, and yeah, beautiful, I would say. Nothing wrong with it.
It can be easy
Claire
to
likes
get.
to tease me, and that's okay.
It can be easy to get caught into an identification, I suppose, with a position. If somebody makes a sort of point, it's totally impersonal. There's no sort of agenda. And then what Tony's very good at is making the opposite point. It's sort of, it can appear to set up some sort of a divide, you know, if you're saying something and then he comes in with something very different, it's sort of, okay, well that's quite fun, you know, it's a game, like you say, you sort of play that, but there can be that sense of well, that's fine, you know, there's not a kind of identification with the original position. So there's not somebody there to really argue with or defend my position against. It's just quite fun. I mean, I love debate and I love words, so it can be quite fun as long as there's not that sense of being caught in it as a personal me who's getting my feelings hurt or my position or my beliefs argued with, you know. Heaven forbid.
It was Sylvain who started it. It was Sylvain's fault. Yeah, he's the mischievous one.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't mischievous.
Because he said what's this about peace and no mind?
I thought
And
that
then
was lovely.
I referred you to, I mean, I watched the entire conversation between you and Vern and enjoyed it very much. And there was one point when Vern was talking about working with people and helping them to stop the, you know, the chatter in their mind, this overthinking, to help them to stop their mind. And then he also said, well, when there's no mind, there are no problems. In deep sleep, there are no problems. And then he equated that with peace. And so I said to you, Claire, well, that's what I've been saying, and you're questioning it. So why didn't you question it when Vern said it? Because I'm very much on the same page as Vern here, you see.
You're feeling victimized, Tony.
No. No, I'm just doing what I always do, you know.
Well, I found it a beautiful phrase. I didn't watch this, but you know, I like to say there's nothing outside this innocent stream of thoughts. As a you, as separation, there is nothing, and not even nothing, which can also be translated as when there is no mind, there's peace. You know, I would say there's not even peace. You know, peace is still, you know, peace can still be objectified, but I understand where Vern is pointing.
Yeah.
Well, if I got that interpretation wrong, then I mean, Vern can always correct me if necessary.
Oh, yeah, but he will probably do
but
that.
I think I got it. I think I got it right.
Yeah. So you know.
Can I just? Do you mind? Hi, Sander. Sorry, brother.
Go ahead.
I just like to say, just very, very quickly, just please remember the situation that I'm in these calls and these people's state of mind, for want of a better word. It's in need of pulling back in, if you know what I mean. It's generally the people that I speak to aren't spiritual seekers. They're people who are really in pain. Either psychologically or physically. So I have to make the words make sense to a dualistic person in order to pull them out of that. And the words that you would hear me speak to Claire, for example, in that, or funnily enough, in the call that I did after I spoke to Claire, in both of those, we have to, there's no other way to, in a dualistic conversation with somebody, after 1 hour of Zoom, there's no other way to talk to them, to get them to relate to what was happening in their mind before the call and what's happening now, an hour later. And that to them is no mind, because before it was all mind as far as they're concerned. So from a radical non-duality perspective, I'm absolutely with Sander and with Claire in terms of there's zero, there's nothing. But from a therapy or a loving perspective, it's in that instance, for example, it was the words that came out that I must have felt that the person could relate to, so that they see the transformation in this instant.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. I totally agree with you, Vern. You know, peace or at ease, you know, all those terms. I get it. You know, when you work with people, Tony is also addressing this you know, as if there's a seeker or if there's a strong sense of a separated individual, it's helpful to also treat them in that way.
Yep.
Because that's on the therapeutic level, it's the way it seems to function. Because saying there's no doer doesn't it's just simply
you have to feel it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I totally understand the use of language, the practicality, why certain words are chosen and how it functions. And I think it's beautiful that it's some seem to even go that there's nothing to solve and all that, but at the same time, there seems to be things to solve, not for someone, but that doesn't matter. Still things can be done, still things can be solved. It's just simply that there is no center there already, but that doesn't mean if there's a sense of center, then it should be addressed also, or else it becomes very difficult in therapy sessions. But of course, this Open Zoom is not a therapy, so here there's no need for that. It doesn't matter that it's wrong when it's coming up. I'm used to these types of phrases from Tony also. So yeah, beautiful. Nice to have you, Vern. Looking forward to your input on it all. Claire, you wanted to say something? You had a nice talk. I understand. I missed it. Vern, you and...
Yeah, I was, well, what I was thinking was I feel terrible for Paul Byrne that he's made this comment and I've dragged him into this meeting and this is all happening.
I
He
was
wasn't
just pleased.
expecting that.
I was pleased you never asked me anything first, because I didn't even know what we was arguing about. Sorry, Claire, go on.
We had a lovely chat. We were and I was writing something about ADHD for something here in the UK, and I thought of Ben, who's very honest and speaks again in this sort of dualistic language about things. And what I find quite interesting is sort of speaking in that dualistic language from the sort of non-dual, like how do you kind of, I mean, it's quite lovely, isn't it? It's just speaking quite naturally, but you can find that the work we do and addressing people on that level, it's still quite possible. There doesn't need to be that sort of them and us, sort of, it's yeah, we'll talk about this quite organically, quite naturally. So it was lovely having the chat with Bern. I felt like we spoke the same language apparently until the point where many things we disagreed. But we had a good chat.
It's funny, Claire. I hear you use the word apparently more now than ever.
Yeah, because she's turning into a radical non-dualist. That's why.
Well,
because they always use the word apparently and seemingly. But listen, look, can I just say something, Sander?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Can I say something? When I speak to someone, anyone, I assume that they are a seeker. And that includes everyone on this Zoom meeting. Whether you're a seeker or not, when I talk to someone, I'm always talking to them as if they're a seeker. So I start from the basis that they believe themselves to be a separate individual, that they identify as an individual who is seeking some kind of truth. So that's what I always assume.
Yeah.
And then on that basis, you see, I don't think you can get to non-duality without starting with duality. But so on that basis, I'm always talking to everyone as a seeker, whether they are or not.
But that can be a problem, right?
So there's no point in me telling someone there is no separate self, that there is only unity, that your essential nature is peace, unbounded peace. There's no point in me telling you that. Well, there could be a point in telling someone that. Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is there's no point in telling someone that they're not a separate self. What I would say is go and inquire and find out if that's true. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
because there's no point in telling someone there's no separate self. If they don't think they are a separate self, if they think they're a separate self, you can say it until you're blue in the face. It doesn't make any difference, you see?
It doesn't make any difference.
Better to give someone the tools to discover for themselves if that's true.
Well, that may all be, and we talked about this, because, there's a strong idea or sense or experience about certain types of practices leading to a certain event, right? So when there's no such practices to begin with, which has led to that event, I'm not comfortable about giving such instructions because it's just simply not how it plays here. So I stay away from all these types of instructions, what to do or what not to do, because it simply didn't play that way. It was already just the case. So it would be, it's the same like, my understanding about separation is conceptual. My understanding about the lack is conceptual. It's not experimental. It's not an experience, as there was no such experience of feeling in a body or being the body or looking out of a body. There was no sense of separation. So when I talk about separation, it's always in a conceptual way. There's an understanding what separation may feel like or may be like, because there was a lot of talk with people addressing their sense or their belief to be a separate individual. So it's something which for me is conceptual. So I stay away from practices and saying and giving instructions, because there's another point that, feeling separated or not, it's already just simply what it is. There's also, here, there's no need for that to change. There's no you who created that sense of separation. So, in a way, there's also no you as a separated individual able to solve that sense of separation. The sense of separation or the belief I am this body or I'm not this body, or the feeling I am the body or the lack of that feeling is already not done by a separated you who's bringing about that feeling, who's bringing about that belief. The belief or the sensation you are the body or the lack thereof is just simply innocently, and I say it with innocently, I mean that there's no you bringing that about. I know also language is always talking about you and me and other things. Outside this innocent stream of communication, there are no things. There isn't a you, there isn't a me. Outside this innocent stream of thoughts, ideas, beliefs, there isn't even wholeness. There isn't even nothing. Nothing is just another label. It's just another idea. It's just another concept. So I'm pretty fine, Tony, and I understand it. We agree for 90.
But when you said something that surprised me a little bit. You said that your knowledge of there not being a separate self is conceptual.
Well,
no, the opposite.
So it's. Sorry, did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, he said that being a separate self to him is a concept, because
yes,
he did not have this experience.
Being a separate self is a concept.
Yeah,
exactly. So, well, I've talked with people who said that they feel solid. And we talked about this, Tony. There's a strong feeling that they, so to say, end with the skin, and everything apart from this is separated. Or I've talked with people who have a sense that they're looking out through the eyes. They have a sense that when they move, that they are the one moving the body. They have a sense when they look in the mirror that face staring back in the mirror is who they are, and they are doing the staring. So from all these conversations, there's an understanding what separation is but to me it's a conceptual understanding.
Okay, Sander, may I?
Yes.
You said that for you is a conceptual, it's an idea to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's put the following situation. Is there a seeing through your eyes? Are you looking through your eyes? You
No.
are not looking. There is no seeing through. I mean, you don't have the sense that there are senses.
No, there's
No,
just
I see.
seeing. There is just seeing, plain seeing. There's no additional sense of seeing through something, or being the
Yes, but
seer.
Sander, are you when let us uh, not suppose, let us uh, consider our eyes, okay? Our eyes. Are you not, is there not something behind these eyes
No,
in opposition to the eyes of other people that you see? Because you are looking at the eyes of other people from outside. And there is something looking from behind these eyes that is
no.
in the other side.
There's just looking. There's no looking behind. You know,
Yeah, I understand
there's
what you
just
say, but
pure looking. I mean, no sense that there is something behind as a me or something else which is looking, something which is separate, or like a brain or whatever you want to call it. No, there's
yes,
just
but you cannot see the color of your own eyes, and you can see the color of the eyes of other people.
yes,
Can
but
you
all
do?
that is of no importance if you don't see the color of your eyes. I mean, because there's no identity when there's looking in the mirror. There's just a face, like there is a tree. There is no, when there's a tree seen in the forest, for example, you know, it's not my tree, it's not me. It's the
Yeah,
same with the face. Of course, when there's a looking in the mirrors, they're seeing colors, but there is no additional sense of a me looking in the mirror,
of me.
nor is
Yeah, I
there an
understand.
additional sense of that are my eyes, or the color is my color, or whatever. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
historical eyes, I would agree.
Yeah, I brought up this issue because as I told before, when I was around, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old, I suddenly I was walking in the street and suddenly I stopped and I said, "Oh my God, I am the only one looking through these eyes. I am the only one behind these eyes because I am looking at
Beautiful.
the other eyes from outside, right? But obviously there is no one behind these eyes.
As a
But in the other
separated
hand,
looker. Yeah.
what?
There's no one behind the eyes as a separated looker. So
Yeah.
eyes
Yeah.
are just looking like a flower is flowering, right? Or a tree is getting leaves. It's just simply
Yeah.
the naked functioning, like a dog barking, But
Yes,
if
but wait a sec, just a second. Why this flower is flowering from inside out and all the other flowers are flowering from outside in because the seeing is from outside in. Why this flower is being seen as from inside out?
Well, I wouldn't say that something is happening from inside out or outside in. Into what and out of what?
Yeah. Yeah.
This sense of location is neither there. So there's not something flowering in or out. That's just another, it would be just another perception or idea that it's flowering in something. This whole conversation is, you know, as it is seen here, this conversation is not happening in something else. This conversation is what is. It's not happening somewhere, nor is it happening
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so when I say, like a body is just watching, feeding itself, peeing and pooing, I said it earlier today, like Nisargadatta was saying, there was a time he said always like, go back to the time when peeing and pooping was innocently, was effortlessly. Just a body defecating, a body performing activities.
Yeah.
And there may be a sense that, which is fine. There may be a sense that I am that body defecating, I'm the doer, and it seems also to be reinforced over a million times because language seems to create a you. That's why here, for, statements like you are awareness, so many so-called individuals seem to be taking you as a personal. So when there are statements that you are awareness, what they may do, innocently so, is they claim that their personal you, their sense of personalness, is awareness. But it's
Yeah, of course
personal
it's not.
everything. It's not.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I stay away from all those terms where there's suggested you, because for many so-called individuals, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with, you is taken to be this body, the mind, the personal, and as if I am, this physical structure, I am awareness. That is what I really am, and I'm seeking for that until that feels right, until there's an experience. As long that is not, I'm not done. Which, of course, it's a matter of words. I always say to Tony, if Tony say me, I ask him also lovingly, do you mean the personal me or the impersonal me? Where Tony often, no, Sander, I'm talking about the impersonal me. So there's this funny thing with language, language, and Vern was also saying that it's dualistic. Without this language, there's not a you and a me and a bunch of things. But go ahead, Gio. Any more about eyes and seeing, my friend? I always love the questions there.
No, another way to put it is that there is no other way of being a human except being in a human body. I mean, how
Yes.
else will you share the humanity if there is no sense of being a human body, But I don't mean that there is a center in this body, but it's not me. It is just the center of a body situated somewhere or not, but it's not personal. It's not fixed. It's just a passing image, a bunch of conditioned images.
Yes, and there's
But if you
nothing wrong with it.
But if you want to, I mean, if you say absolutely there is no body, there is no one here, then you are not a human, and there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, then there is no humanity, and it's okay. It's it's totally impersonal and non-human. It's nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. I would say there's just humaning. It's
Or
just playing out. It's just
the same. Yeah.
bodies being bodies, like dogs, like trees are trees. Nothing, there's nothing behind it. There's no
Yeah.
tree, separated tree making the tree grow. It's just, this is it.
Yeah.
And of course, this may include all types of ideas, beliefs, sensations, feelings, thoughts, emotions. And
What usually people find that is a problem, and I must say that I sometimes share this idea, is that if you feel that you are a separate center, there is a sense of limitation. There is a sense of limitation because when this center is blown or it disappears, there is an opening of the horizons that is completely open. It's completely non-unlockable, but it is completely non-limited. But when you are very much concerned with day-to-day situations, with day-to-day problems, there seems to be a limitation, right? So I don't find it wrong to say that it is not very good. It's not very right, at least for me.
yes, and that's right too, So
To
the
not feel right.
sensation, yeah, that's just simply, the longing for something else, you see this in many talks. There seems to be maybe a general idea that it's better. One is better than the other. Well, that's it already. Until that even crumbles, the belief that it's so much better, may just
I
simply
don't
go.
know, Sander, because now you are being theoretical, you are being conceptual. Because when the person really feels that he is a separate entity inside the body, the limitation for him is not conceptual. It
It's
is
no,
real
it's
for
not
him.
conceptual. It's extreme. It's so extreme that suddenly. So when there is a sense of me being this and others, out of that will arise fear, because
Yeah,
everything is separated. There can be fear, there can be anxiety. There's birth, there's death. There's something to lose. There's something to gain. Although all those things may innocently anyway play out, but it's around the strong sense, everything is like stamped with the stamp of me. So it's all around that so-called sense of individuality or personal doership. So it's my life, it's my birth, it's my death, it's my wife, it's my dogs, it's my house, it's my job, it's my money. I'm here, there are others. This is a dangerous situation. Others, they're uncontrollable. So there's a maybe an extra sense of protection and all that, those types of mechanisms innocently playing out. So I'm not diminishing, anything in that sense. At the same time, it's what it is. It's also what it is.
yes, of course. Must be.
And there was
How
no
could,
you bringing about all those types of fears or ideas or beliefs.
yeah,
It doesn't mean that nothing can be done or that it may not change, that this so-called sense of being a body or sense of being in the body or with the body may not collapse or may go, or people even say may seem through. But there is no you seeing through anything.
yeah. But as long as there is this sense of being inside the body, the discomfort, the limitation is real for him,
Of course,
for
yes.
the body, for
Yes.
although it is not personal, it is impersonally personal,
Yeah, yeah.
unlimitedly limited, because even time is timeless, right? So even limitation is not limited. Even limitation is free to arise. I understand that. But
Well,
if you,
yeah, even time becomes a problem because it's not just time, it's my time and it's running out.
yeah, yes, yeah,
Or else there's just time. But when it's yours, when there's a sense of my time, this is my life, this is given to me.
yeah,
It's my life, it will end. You know, and like I said, this already never started for you. There was no one waiting for this to start. There was no one agreeing for this to start. Suddenly, this, you can call it life or beingness or awareness, just simply innocently started playing. There was no you agreeing or disagreeing for it to start. It just happens innocently already from the get-go, which
it's
includes the
amazing. Yeah,
sense it's for me or the lack of the sense for me. Strong,
yeah,
very intense, even when there seems to be the strong sense it is for me. This may also fluctuate. Even so-called individuals who have a very, very strong sense of a self, of being the body, this even may fluctuate. It may become very loose at certain moments, maybe not even there, where in certain situations it's very strong. It's extremely strongly felt and lived.
would you like to spend the rest of your life, Sander, feeling as a isolated, inner, non-existent entity? Doesn't make sense. No.
Well, you asking if I would want to live with the sense of separation for the rest of my
Yeah,
life?
yeah,
Well, probably not, but it's hard to say because you're painting a situation which there is no experience of more
yeah,
than just, you know, by listening and interacting with people, but it seems not like a wanted situation. But anyway, it doesn't mean that, that even such things, such sensations of being a separated individual, that there even may come a certain type of acceptance even in the midst of it all. So when there's a strong sense of self, that, something, that there may be an acceptance of that to be what it is also. I've also talked with people who had that strong sense, but there was also an acceptance of the sense of feeling separate, which seemed to smoothen the fear and certain so-called consequences flowing out of this sense of being the body, of being an individual somewhere in a life having it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like that. I feel a bit like that. Like just talking. I don't know if I can you hear me, by the way?
We hear you, Carrie.
Yeah, I feel a bit like that. Like I was thinking for a long, long time, obsessively, and now I feel like I've let go of the seeking. I know I said it in the last one, but I've let go of the seeking, and everything it feels chaotic, like all the things that are happening. But I don't. It feels like just a giving up. Like I'm just fucking done with that. Like I don't want to. I'm sick of fucking seeking. I don't want to seek anymore. I'm done with it. And there is when you was talking about looking out through your eyes uh, and it not being you. I understand from like the perspective that I can see in this place. I understand what you mean. Like when I see a tree, it just looks like a tree. It isn't separate, but it's like I can't even, my words get all jumbled up with it. But I wonder if language is what causes the separation in the first place.
Yes.
Completely. Like if we weren't taught language when we were born, there would be no separation.
Exactly.
Yep.
And not even wholeness. I would say outside this innocent stream of language, there's no such thing as separation to begin with. Language is painting a world where there's a you at its center and other things. Outside this stream of language or thoughts, thoughts is, I would say language is just an external thought in a way. So outside this innocent stream of thoughts and language, there's exactly no separation. And I saw Vern also nodding,
Yeah.
and but this language. So in a way, there it's just what it is, language. There's also no need to avoid language or whatever. It's but sometimes, because we are, as far as it seems, bodies or people interact with each other and use language. So at a certain point, it seems to be very reinforced. This whole idea of a me being separate amongst other things has been reinforced a million times. Oh, now she's gone. Fern, maybe you want to say something. I saw you nodding when she was talking about. I saw, so maybe you want to say something.
Well, I felt compelled to ask her a question, and so I don't particularly feel like saying it now. I'll wait till she comes back.
Yeah, do that. That's good. We wait until she's coming back. But yes, of course, without language or outside language, there is nothing, and not even nothing. That's just another. Yeah. I mean, what is there to say then?
In case she doesn't come back, because I think it might be an interesting exercise for all of us. All I was going to ask her was, I was going to explain to her how that tree existed before us, before words, before we created language, and so it can't be a tree because we just made that up. That's kind of what we call it, but what was it called before people? Because there were trees before people, as far as I'm aware. Certainly trees before language. But yeah, that breaks a lot of things for me, that perspective.
Yeah.
In terms of words, that's how much words break everything.
Gio, are you talking? You're muted. You were talking, but we didn't hear you.
No, sorry. I was going to say that language is a sort of form, right? But there are other sorts of forms. So once we accept that there is form, then we create the world, right?
Mm.
Because you were saying that there were trees even before we called it tree. That's true. But still there is the creation of form, the form of the tree.
Correct. But we were talking about words. And as far as I'm concerned, all words are the same. It's purely a conditioned response.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's all that's happened. Whether you think you thought of the words or not, it's still a conditioned response, in my experience.
Yes. And, even, we can say thoughts or language. It doesn't, thoughts is maybe, we can say, an internal dialogue instead of an external dialogue. So I would say thoughts and words and language are similar to each other in the sense that they always talk about division, about things, about separated objects in time and space. But that whole so-called process of language or thoughts is already not separated in itself. It's already completely what it is. So although language may seem to create separation, itself is already not separated.
Well, it's all consciousness, isn't it? Because, you can make a distinction between impersonal and personal. But, in unity, which is the goal of non-duality, the personal is just consciousness as form, isn't it? So there's no difference because there only is consciousness. So whether we're talking about words or language or the appearance of the body, it's all consciousness.
Yeah, or beingness, or it's all just, I'm a favorite fan of saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of non-duality, isn't it?
Well,
there's not two, although it appears as many.
Yeah.
There's not two, right?
There's not, non-duality means not two. So, but if we say it's all consciousness, or it's, if you go to Indian and they say it's all Brahman, it's just Shiva dancing, there's just Shiva dancing. It's a common thing in India. They say there's just Shiva. This is Shiva's dance. It dances as anger, it dances as love. You can say it's Brahman. People who are religious say there's just God, everything is God, even the idea that there is God, even the sense that there is no God is also God. So it's, the spiritual people, believing in consciousness, they say it's all consciousness, and even that is consciousness, or it's all beingness. So then the radical non-dualists come and say, it's all this, and even that is this. It's just pointing to the same undivided, innocent. Let's say this, but
yeah, okay, but yes, okay, but it's all very well.
Not this as an object, as something which is doing this as an object. This is a thingless, borderless, edgeless, nothingness being everything. But at the same time, it's again, where to go. It's just more words. Even that is just language painting an unborderless, thingless thing. I mean, yeah, it's
unfuckable.
Yeah. Unfuckable. Boom, Gio, I love it.
Yeah, but when you say there's only this, it's just a statement. That's just a statement from the mind. There is only this.
Yeah,
that's
but
a product of the mind. It's just a thought.
Yes, Tony, of course, it's all saying it's a fault is just another fault that it's a fault, Tony. We know that. It's all a fault. When I say there's just this is just pointing to the directness, which also includes the fault or saying that there's just this. So I totally agree with you. When I say there is just this, it's pointing to the directness, whatever seems to be happening or not seems to be happening, sitting in front of a Zoom. And this is not a thing, it's not an object, it's not something moving. So yes, you can say, but people will also say consciousness. Oh, it's all consciousness. That's just another for Tony. Or it's another belief. We can keep coming at each other with words and throwing. It's all a belief. We can say to each other the whole time. It's all a story. Yes, I agree. It's all a story. It's all a thought. Yes, it's all a thought. It's all language. Yes, it's all language. So there's no way to talk yourself out of this with thoughts, because there's already no you in this outside of
Okay,
there is no
Sander, you will agree with me because you've said you agree with me
Okay.
that what is necessary, because you've agreed with me
Yeah, I
that
agree with you already.
some kind of inquiry is necessary. Do you
Well,
agree with me on that?
Yes.
Some kind of inquiry is necessary.
But any kind of inquiry will lead you to seeing through the totality. And seeing through the totality can happen in any way. You can come up to the same mountain from many sides. One side says that you need practice.
Any kind of inquiry? What does any kind of inquiry mean?
No, I mean any kind of so-called action, right?
Or non-action.
Or non-action. It's completely free. To say that there is a need for meditation is just one way of things happening, seeming to happen. There are other infinite ways to arrive at the same unfragmented perception of the totality.
No, I can't go there. Sorry, I can't go there, Gio. Sorry.
Well, Sander did not make any kind of meditation, and he never felt as a separate something.
No, but he practiced Kriya Yoga for
but
how many
Tony,
years?
I told you in the beginning, we talked about this, Tony. Don't start yanking my tail now again, So yes, there has been Kriya and all that, but there was already no sense of being a body doing Kriya. I was doing the Kriya. It was out of a leg, or it was, there was just like Kriyas like playing football. There was never.
It sounds like you're trying to excuse yourself.
Well, no, because I don't. There's nothing wrong with Kriyas or inquiry. The need to inquire, or the belief that inquiry will help you go somewhere or will help you go nowhere, is already just simply innocently arising as an idea, a thought, or a belief. It has already nothing to do with you.
But I want to take up with Gio when he said any kind of inquiry. But I mean, when I talk about inquiry, I'm talking about something very specific. I'm talking about turning the attention back to the source. And that is just one thing. It's not many different kinds of inquiry. It's just one specific kind of inquiry, which is going back to the source.
Yes,
that's the only kind of inquiry that I recognize, really.
Oh no, there are many other types.
You can inquire into, stuff that in the world, how things work and all of that stuff in the relative sense. But inquiry for me is going back to the source. I mean, it's very specific.
Yes, but okay, Tony, but you can, for example, you can do an inquiry by asking, what am I? If I am in a body, you can inquire and try to see what is the substance of this separate entity. That's another type of inquiry. Because when you
No, that's
realize that
exactly that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you ask the question,
no, you
who
said
am I?
you want to inquire going to the source, but this
Yeah,
is
but
not going to the
that's
source.
right. And
You
you're
real
talking about that too. Because when you ask the question, who am I? What happens? There's silence.
yeah.
The mind is suspended. I'm talking about the same thing.
Okay, you want to call it the same thing. It can be the same thing because there is no separation anyway, yeah. But people are suddenly walking in the street and say, wow, and they become enlightened, so to say. Why not? We have read so many stories about laymen, people who naturally uh, became aware of the totality. Why not?
I would suggest, Gio, that there are maybe, I don't know, millions of people, I would not say, but there are many people, who are not having these conversations at all, don't go to Zoom meetings, and don't
Yeah,
feel like a separated individual and never speak about it whatsoever.
yeah.
And there
I
will be,
wouldn't say millions. I
I
wouldn't say
wouldn't say
millions,
millions,
but
I don't know. And there were many who have this
yeah,
certain type of experience, who write endless types of books about walks in the
yeah,
park, getting a milk, whatever.
yeah,
This is free to be however it seems to be, however it plays to be, however it felt to be.
yeah,
There isn't and I agree with Tony, certain so-called practices, inquiry, meditation, can they lead to something? Yes, everything can lead to something, but it's not leading you anywhere else as a separated location or a separated destination. If there's a practice of football, there's probably getting better in football, but there's no separated you becoming better in anything. There's no you good in something already, able to become better. There's no you in a state of ignorance, able to move to a state of knowing. That doesn't mean that knowing and ignorance may not seem to play out on a certain type of level, and that
yeah.
ignorance may place for knowledge or whatever. I want to stay away from those types of labels as ignorance and knowledge, because it gives rise that people know something and then it's taken to be personal. Oh, he knows something, he's ignorance. But both ignorance and knowledge are impersonal.
Yeah, and the problem with calling it
And personal.
consciousness
And
or
personal.
awareness,
Okay, Tony, I agree. And personal. As far as it seems, because, when there is a sense of being a person, everything is seen personal also. It's just simply how it seems to function. When there is a strong sense of being a person, then the interaction is with so-called other persons. When there's a strong sense of doership, I'm the doer, there's an interaction with all other types of doers. When there is no sense of person or sense of separation, there are equally no others. When there's no sense of me, others dissolve.
Look,
There
there
are no
seems to be
others.
two camps, right? There are two camps. There's one camp which you can say goes back to Tony Parsons and radical non-duality, which says there is nothing to do, there is no person to do anything, you are already complete. How could you do anything to become what you already are? There's that camp, which I am definitely not in. And then there's the camp which is practice, a path. There is a
No, but
path, and that's the camp
there's a nuance. Tony, you're
uh,
painting now. Are you saying that this is like a Tony? Because, I know about radical non-dualities. They will chop your head off the moment you come in one of those meetings, Tony. So
I'm sure it will.
don't act as if this is a radical message. I'm not saying that there's no way or that there's nothing to do. I'm just saying there's no separated doer doing anything already as a you. There's just a body performing activities. There's something completely different than the message of Tony Parson.
Yeah, well, that might be the ultimate knowledge, but it's not the knowledge that a seeker has, is it?
No,
See,
but
there's a
you
different
know,
kind of truth. You could talk about two truths. The truth of
well,
the seeker is separation, and the truth of the realized is non-separation. So you have to deal with the seeker at their level and treat them as someone who has free will and can make choices.
yes.
You have to do it at that level.
Yes, but this meeting is not there to deal with seekers. This meeting is just a coming together. You know, this is not here. There's no intention to deal with any seekers. There's no big sign if you're a seeker, like Emerson maybe have or other so-called speakers. You know, where there is where seekers go. This is not a place for seekers. It doesn't mean that maybe seekers will join this or whatever, but this is not a typical seekers meeting. This is just an innocent expression, and there are people joining for some reason. Maybe there is seeking for certain people joining this meeting, maybe not, but this is not an addressing of seekers, Tony.
Well, I suppose whatever gets discussed is what comes up, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
I mean,
I
I don't know what
totally.
else you could say, really. Well, if a particular topic comes up, it comes up because it's just as spontaneous as anything else that arises, right?
Exactly. So I would say this is not Tony Parson, and you know, there are people who have been to Tony Parson, I guess, in this meeting, and it's slightly different, I would say. Um, but then again, Tony, I understand what you mean. There seems to be the more traditional way where it's about practice and inquiry and all that. But here, there's no denying of all those types of activities may lead to something. But here, there's only saying that it's not leading you anywhere.
because there is no
Yeah,
you.
I would
You as a
say that the
separated,
conversation is relevant because it's happening amongst people who have had this discussion before, like me and Claire, for instance. So we're both at this Zoom meeting, and that kind of thing, might get discussed. So,
yeah.
unless you want to have a set of rules where you tick off boxes saying you can talk about this but not
Oh
this,
no,
or
it's an open meeting, Tony. Everyone, like I said, because you mentioned there are two truths, and in the beginning I was saying, here there's no claiming this to be the truth. This is just simply how it seems to function here, or how it is seen, whatever you want to call it. If people claim that there's a seeing or that it's a belief or whatever, I'm pretty fine with it. You know, here there's no claim that this is the ultimate truth and nothing but the truth. But at the same time, people joining this meeting may have the belief that this is the truth or close to the truth in comparison to something else. But that is also just what it is. So
But this is interesting what you say, because you say it's not about a teaching. But if I listen to what you're saying and I listen to what Gio just said, it sounds to me like a teaching,
yeah,
and which is
Tony,
nothing wrong
wait,
with that. Nothing
no.
wrong with that.
If you go back, if you watch this meeting tomorrow, which you maybe do, in the beginning said this is not a teaching, but this may be heard as a teaching. This may be seen as a teaching. And here we go. It sounds to me as a teaching you are saying. This was already addressed in the intro that this may sound as a teaching. Even I would even go as far because I've heard some radical non-dualities claiming that it's no teaching, even saying it's no teaching is teaching what the teaching is or not. You understand? If you say this is not a teaching, okay, so something else is a teaching and this is not a teaching. That's already a teaching. So,
Well, those are just the usual mind games, of course. But
of course,
okay.
but I'm saying, I said in the beginning, this is not a teaching, but it may hear so, and here we go. It sounds like a teaching to me, Sander. Yes, that's how it happens. So Here there is no, it's heard as it hurts. This may sound as a teaching. This may sound as the biggest bullshit there is on earth. Yes, I'm not asking otherwise. I'm not asking anybody to hear this in a certain way, because hearing this in a certain way or in another way, or not hearing this at all, these words, is just innocently what seems to be happening. There's no you controlling the hearing. That's just simple, the naked functioning, the taking these words in, making it to in your own so-called story, although there is no your story or my story. These words are just landing, and there's an innocent working with these words, working with this teaching, or whatever you want to call it. And there's no you in between, so to say. But I agree, Tony. I always agree with 99.9% of your were saying. But when you say this is Tony, how is the old guy, the Parsons? No, that's slightly different. And it's not better. It's not worse. I don't find it stupid. It's just simply not resonating here. It's like music. If you play music, some people resonate with music. Some people like music. Some people only like a certain drummist in that band. It's what it is. I mean, let me go to Claire, because she had her hand up like a half an hour, and I'm like almost ashamed that she's forgotten what she wants to say already. I guess
it's too late, Sander. It was Sylvain was he just shared something to me about language, but I don't know if it's
no longer. It's no longer appropriate. No.
So Gio's got his hand up now.
I was going to say that the dreamed person cannot wake up from the dream. It's impossible. And we are personalities being dreamed. And as a dreamed personality, we cannot wake up out from the dream. What may happen is the seeing of the dreaming and nothing else to be done.
Tony was coming up there.
Because the dreamed person may dream that he's doing exercises, that he's doing meditation.
I don't understand what that means. I have no idea what that means.
Making inquiry. But as long as the dreamed person is the person that thinks that he's doing things in the dream, he cannot get out from the dream as a person.
Well, the only dream I know about is what happens when you go to sleep at night. That's a dream for me. Nothing else is. That's a dream. But you're talking about the waking state as being a dream as well.
No, I'm talking.
Is that what you mean?
You mean I mean that awakening from the night dream, you are in another dream, in the daydream. If you think that you are a separate person, okay. If you feel that you are a separate person, right?
No,
and this sense of separate, I am calling it as a dream.
I know it's often referred to that, but I certainly would not call it a dream. No,
it's an analogy. Why not? So this dreamed personality cannot wake up as a person or as a separate entity. It cannot. The waking up is only possible as non-separation, which does not involve the sense of being a separate being.
Well, this might shock you, Gio, but I would say to you that it's the ego that wakes up.
The ego wakes up. No,
because awareness doesn't have to do that because it's already awake. It's the ego that realizes it's not different from the totality, the one indivisible reality. It's the ego.
Yeah,
because it's the ego can say, I am awake. So it's the ego. It's the ego that wakes up. The ego becomes no different.
Yes, but the moment that it is not different, it's not an ego anymore. Because ego in Greek means me, I, right?
Yes.
There is no more me and I except the totality.
Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's the ego gone then?
It is the totality. No
it's
separation.
also not a thing. So Tony, gents, do you mind if I just interject? Because I would like to ask Tony a question. Tony, you've seen a couple of my vids, I know that. So I'm going to ask you a question that I asked in there and just see if it gives you a different kind of feeling inside. When we're like asleep, probably at night, like in bed asleep, yeah, and we have a dream, yeah, that we actually remember when, like the next day at breakfast, when we're telling somebody about the dream that we had when we was asleep, yeah. What is that dream actually? When you remember it when you're awake, you're remembering what? So I'm going to suggest, just to speed things along, it's just thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
Did you? Okay, cool. Now, sitting at the breakfast table, telling the story about the dream that wasn't real, what is the experience of awakeness outside of thoughts and feelings in this instant? The only thing that's real. What is there other than thoughts and feelings, brother, that you just called a dream when you was asleep?
The only thing that's real is being.
Answer the question.
Yes.
I did.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
What other than thoughts and feelings when you're awake? What is awakeness? Yes. What else is happening?
What you're asking me specifically? What is awakeness?
I'm asking you, other than thoughts and feelings, what? Yes, but other than. Yeah, no, it's cool. Sorry if I'm confusing you. It's not intentional. I promise.
Yeah, just a simple question.
So, other than thoughts and feelings, what happens when you're awake? What's the experience you have?
How do you mean awake?
When you're not in bed asleep. No, yeah, not like spiritually awake. Just
when you're at the table, Tony. At the table.
When your bedroom alarm goes off and you wake up.
Sorry, Glenn, I'm not trying to be
difficult.
Right, you're talking about being in the waking state of consciousness as opposed to dream or deep sleep.
Correct.
The three states.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the waking state, yes, and the question is.
So
what is it?
What is it other than thoughts and feelings? What is it other than thoughts and feelings?
Oh, awareness.
The thought. Carry on. What else is there?
Yes, the fourth state. The fourth state, Turiya, is common to all states.
Yeah, and that's cool. But do you get my point? That it's like for most people that don't know that what you just said, because most people only know what they know, but you know that what you just said, and so it's you have a response. Most people don't. They would all also agree generally that awakeness is also thoughts and feelings, because you're using your thoughts to recall your memories, and you have the sensations and emotions, and that's the feelings. And we've just given the same two words, thoughts and feelings, two different words, which is awake and asleep. But it's only for most people's experience who aren't as educated as yourself. It's the same. That's, I think, how I kind of try and get that across to most people. And it's not about this is the right way. It's just it's really hard for people that think non-dual first to stop that, to even give this the light of day, this kind of perspective.
Yes, because what I often say is that when you emerge from deep sleep into the waking state, before a single thought or memory enters the mind, you know that you are you.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, Tony,
you are always you.
If you are dualistic.
Just like if you change your clothes or you put different shoes on, you're still you.
But Tony, there is no one, in a state of wakefulness moving to a state of sleepfulness. There's just a body sleeping, a body waking up, and there may be a sense that I am that body waking up or not. There's no one in sleep 20 minutes before
that's right. I don't have that sense.
No, but there's no.
Have that sense.
there's
Yes.
no one 20 minutes before the eyes are opening saying, I'm going to wake up. There's just waking up. There's a body putting on clothes, and there may well be
obvious,
thoughts
yes.
or feelings arising
Yeah.
innocently.
Yeah.
So
I think that's very obvious. But
that's
so
obvious,
what I'm
right?
saying is that before a single thought comes into your mind, you as the essence, as beingness, you are already that and always have been that and always will be that. But the thoughts and feelings and perceptions through the senses, all of those are appearing and disappearing within that awareness.
Yes, and you mean you with the impersonal you, just to make it for the viewer.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
but at the same,
Then we
same
agree.
time,
We agree. Yes.
same time, there can be the realization that that this body is also nothing other than self, because you can say that you're the body if you're limited, if you're in the what would be called spiritually in the state of ignorance. If you take yourself to be the body and the mind, you can say I am the body, but you can also realize that there is only one, and you can still say, I am the body. But in that instance, what you mean is the body is nothing other than this
Exactly.
beingness.
And that's what I call there is just the self, I would say.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
just the self.
Exactly.
There's
There is
no
nothing
separated
other than
self.
self.
Yeah, there's just the self. There's no separated self doing the selfing. So yes,
Or is they say in Vedanta, there is only Brahman, one without a second.
Brahman, yeah, exactly. So from that perspective, yes, you can say I am the body, but not I as a personal, because the I seems to be taken for many so-called people as a personal I, where we are talking about the impersonal I. I am the body. You know, there is nothing. I would say there's nothing else but you. There is just
So you can still make a distinction. You see, when I was listening to Vernon speaking in that conversation, I kind of sat up and paid attention when he said that peace is always there. I think you said that, Vernon, right? You said that peace is always there. So that made me pay attention when you said that, because it seems like you can objectify it and say, oh, look, there is this peace I'm experiencing, which sounds dualistic, but that's only the language that's making it sound dualistic.
Of course, but
that's not what's actually happening.
No, Tony, and that we know, but at the same time, many, there seems to be an innocent getting trapped in language where it to be taken as the ultimate reality in terms of you, me, and other things. So these
Well, that's
things.
all we have when we communicate with others, right?
Yes, of course, but at the same time, it can be seen through, or however you want to call it. Also, Vern was talking about language. So, terms of you and I, in general, seems to be taken as personal I. When you say, where are you? People are pointing to the body. I'm here. This is me. Who are you? This is me. Me is this. So there seems to be that mix up also when the teachers, I'm here today. I'm here. When people, are you here, Jasper? Yeah, I'm here. So it's again the same, you say I am everything. It's mixed with the so-called personal sense that this person is everything. And although there is just there is no separated I, or
you could say the limited I, the egoic I, is mixed up with the real I, which is the unbounded spaciousness of awareness or being, and they're mixed together. And of course, if you go back to the question of practice, the whole practice is to disentangle this limited I, disentangle it from the real I. That's discrimination. That's traditionally called discrimination. See, that's
or as Ramana said,
that's a way of putting it.
Yeah, follow the I thought, or stay with the I am. But we talked about this. Nisargadatta was even saying also that I am needs to have to go. You have to go past the I am
Yeah. The I am that is a very confusing book. I don't know, the translation or what, but
Translation, yeah.
sometimes he refers to I am as the limited, and then sometimes he refers to I am as the unlimited. And
Yeah.
they kind of get mixed up, and I think a lot of people get confused with that, because he's very clear. There's a very specific quote in that book where he says, even the I am has to go. He says
Yes,
that has to
exactly.
go.
Yeah, beautiful. We seem to have lost some participants. Claire, Sylvan, anything there which is coming up?
Yeah.
Sylvan's got all sorts of pearls of wisdom that he's sharing in private.
No, that's the case. I mean, I was interested when we mentioned words earlier, because uh, uh, originally at the beginning there was no words. So why did people, the first people, invented words if it wasn't to communicate with each other?
Oh,
So
yes.
they would communicate with each other because they are separate. If they're not separate, they don't need to communicate. They would know all the same thing at the same time. Let
That's
me
just
finish.
another idea.
No, it's not an idea. It's not an idea because we have words. So
Yeah, but
if I want to tell you there's a tiger behind you, I need to be able to say that to you, because
yes,
I see it and you don't.
I understand, but this is, it's like without the mind, there's nothing else, and without nothing else, there's no mind. So one cannot live without the other type of statement being made. There's a conclusion. Language is because we were separate. So if you have listened to today, the seeing of separated bodies, the claiming there to be separated bodies itself is already not separated. Separated from where? So it's only when there's a strong sense of me being this body that there are the so-called bodies. And I'm not denying that, language is not out of a practical sense born, but to say bluntly, we are always separate, and that's why there's language, just goes too far, because that's a statement you of course you can make that statement, but it's
It's not actually a concept. It's the reality of it. The point is that actually language used to be a lot simpler than it is now. And with the language becoming more sophisticated, we move from a practical use to an intellectual use. And people get lost in intellectual stuff, which don't apply to reality where we live.
yeah, but even bodies, you know even on that so-called level where you claim bodies to be separated, even on that level, you mean that bodies are separated. Are they not even separated? There's nothing where just the sky gets separated from the ground. I mean, it's just one whole. Of course, you can zoom in and it seems to be separated, a person there, but there isn't even a separation there to be found in an absolute way. There is just simply nothing separated already. You are just zooming out and like filtering out a human being and then another human being, but that it's the whole process is already not separated. So seeing division or seeing separation or claiming there to be separation is already not separated. There's just simply no separation. Separation from what? The whole statement of separation, the feeling of separation, is already not two. It's already not separated. There's just
Yeah,
simply no
that's right.
separation.
That's fine. I mean, I'm very happy for you to see that. I'm seeing something different, and I do not generally, because I know you explained very well that actually this is a meeting between people who have something in common, and I do have a lot in common with you at the same time. But I also find myself, whenever I'm at a meeting with other people, that there's always something I've gained from it. So there is an exchange taking place, and although I'm not a seeker per se, I'm not seeking anything. I gain from actually listening to other people. So from that point of view, I welcome the fact that I see them as separate than me because they
Yes.
can bring me something different that I wouldn't have done by myself.
But let me ask you something. I see it differently. That so-called seeing it to be different is already not separate.
It is to me.
Yeah, but
You
the
see, you
sense
see,
is
I mean,
to me, yeah, I understand what you mean. But even it's separated to me is already not separate. Separate from what?
listen, I mean, I was also quite really captivated by what Joe was saying earlier on when he was talking about what's behind the eye. I mean, I don't know if you've ever looked at slow motion of a plant growing. Now, the plant grows and you can see it with your eyes, but you can't see it with the inside of the plant. Because what's happening inside the plant is not what you see with your eyes from outside. It's all those cells dividing and making new things. So there are definitely different ways of looking at the same thing.
But it's no difference for the body. But
it is exactly the same for the body.
The so-called cells in the body are just innocently, it's funny. It's also with the stomach. It just actually innocently digests your food.
I don't think it's innocent at all. I think it is engineered that way.
Yes, but so to come back, when you say I see it differently.
Is that even true? Is that still true of Claire's cooking even? Okay.
But as Jon said, this is the tale of the cat.
She loves my cooking.
Hey, I see it even different. Sandra, I see it even more differently. Simply, these questions about separation don't even arise here.
No, but they don't arise here either. But this is a conversation where they come up, Tony. So it's not. Let me say it like that. It's not that this is, when there is a daily life, I would say. There's none of this playing out. There's not a thought, additional thought. There's just activities, going to work and all that. There's no talk about separation or, oh, that tree is not separated from me, blah, 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 or there's no doer. No, there's just simply the directness of whatever is happening, activities. And there's none of that. So these questions don't arise. This is merely in conversations like this. I just wanted to point out and although there's absolutely nothing wrong, Sylvan, when you say I see separation, I think there's separation. But that itself, that so-called seeing or finding or believing or feeling that there is separation, or the seeing, that itself is already not separated. That's all what I'm saying. It's already just undivided.
Yes. Sorry, I was going to address Sylvain in a very similar way. I think it is all right, Sylvain, to see a separation between persons, personalities, bodies. It's okay.
Yes.
What we are saying is that there is a next level, a dimension, a different dimension. It is like a quantum jumping. You can see all these separations, and somehow after this quantum leap, there is no separation because every separation belongs to the same, whatever name you want to give it, to being, happening.
I'm quite happy. I believe I understand what you're saying, but I'm actually also find for myself that we live in one level, and that level we're living in is where we can act at the moment. When the time comes, we'll go to the next level. When I become have no more body because I'm dead, apparently.
No. You don't have to die. No, there is no need.
Who knows? Have you been dead before?
No, look.
So I'm saying there's an unknown here, which actually at the moment I don't need to be there because I'm here.
Sylvain, look. The fingers that you are seeing, your own fingers, are separate, right? This finger is separate from this one.
Well, yes.
But yes, but in the dimension of the body, they are not separate. And the same analogy you can make. There is a seeming separation between seeming persons, but very simply, in a next level, when you look at the totality, even the sense of separation belongs to being. In whatever way, in whatever mode it's happening, it is being. And we are talking about this being, the sense of being, of which comes from nothing and which is everything. It's a miracle. You see, it is so miraculous that we don't dare to think about it.
But
It's absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. But at the moment, here, I'm afraid that actually my hands are part of my body, and I am me, and there are other people who are other people, and I've got connection with other people. We share things together, we do things together, we complete each other in some ways, and I respect that. I think that's the beauty of being alive. You know, and I
Yes,
don't
no
need
problem.
to put a, you know,
but are you able right now to go to the next level and see all this separation
Of
as a
course I
whole?
can, because the bricks making everything on this planet are the same. So of course we are into a completeness, but for the time being, when for the lack of a better word, we are alive. I think that we are a wonderful position because everybody is different. That's the beauty of being with human beings. We can do things together. We can enrich each other. We can enjoy our passage there
Yes.
until we go back into the hole. And that's
As long,
But no one
yes,
left the
but you
hole.
don't have to die to go to the hole. I mean, the
No,
body does not need to die.
Which hole you
it
are
was a
talking
figure of
about?
speech. It was a figure of speech because I
Yeah.
just think that actually the knowledge or the feeling of that wholeness, once
Yes.
we are at the moment here, is not helping anything.
But
And
wait,
there's a
Of
lot of
course, no.
wait, Sylvan.
yes.
No, maybe I have to say, so there's no sense of separation here, nor a sense of wholeness. This is not a sense of wholeness. There is no such thing as a sense of wholeness. There's no sense of separation. So this is not wholeness, is not another dimension where you are in not wholeness now already. There is no you in a state of incompleteness will go back to wholeness in another level. There is no you in any level already.
But the
In
thing is,
any
actually, I
state.
don't ask myself that question. It
I
doesn't
wouldn't agree
arise
with
in
that,
me.
Sander.
I don't
No,
need
I
to
know
have
you agree with me.
I don't need to have an answer to that question at the
No,
moment.
I totally understand, but
I would say that I am the wholeness, you see, because I wouldn't say there's a sense of wholeness. I would
no,
say I am
I
that
am wholeness. And I with I again, of course, I totally agree. I am wholeness. It's the impersonal I, which is beingness. There's just beingness. So we got the circle around. But
Can I just add? Can I just
yeah,
add from
sure.
in that position, if you then remove all thoughts, you are in that dimension of wholeness, whether without words, without calling it anything. Once whether you're asleep, awake, whatever you want to say, when it's up here, now, whenever, that the human experience of no separation from what I've been taught and from what is happening here. So that's how I can speak with authority on this. But admittedly, in order to be able to tolerate operating here consciously, no matter what the mind does, if it does spin up, it takes complete faith and trust in your ability to detect what's happening in this instant. And that's really all what we're talking about. That's being. Because when you are with your five senses in this instant, the mind just it's not operational. It doesn't do anything. And people dualistic people just, and I was one until 3 years ago, because it's just a completely different experience. So there's the intellectual understanding, which Sylvian has an extremely good, from my perspective anyway, an extremely good understanding of. He understands non-duality intellectually, but for you, for Sylvan, for the paradox of the question that was asked is, before you were, I need to give you another kind of perspective like I did with Tony. Sorry, and this is how it works for me. When you are 18 months old, Sylvan, and you don't know all your words and concepts and beliefs yet, yeah, you still have a life, you still exist, you're still you, but there's no words yet. Not that you're using like you would use consciously today in this instant. And if you didn't know any words in this instant, i.e., if your mind was like it was when it was 18 months old, now in this instant, you would feel no separation. You would feel like God in the human words, or the source. It's just how it is.
Yes.
And it's until it happens, and it's not happening, but we have to use words in this instant until it happens. And that's the bit we have no control over.
Yeah.
We do have control over quieting the mind, and that's science has proven that. Pardon?
No, I was just saying this is something we never went into because, I think that Claire and maybe Sylvan think that when I was talking about no mind, they think maybe you turn into a zombie and it becomes Night of the Living Dead or something, you see. So, no, I get this impression. So that maybe Claire thinks, well, how can you function, without a mind? But that's something we never really got into, though.
Well,
No, I'm just going back.
I think that actually, with all due respect, I mean, we don't read each other's minds, and I'm listening to Vern. I mean, two things I'd like to say to that. First of all, I've got a very peaceful mind. I don't have a problem with my thoughts running away from me.
I haven't accused you of that.
The other thing is actually, when I was born, I already had a language. I didn't have the words that we've invented, but I definitely had a language because I knew what I wanted to eat, and I would make a noise about it. I knew when I was uncomfortable, I would make another noise about it. I would actually recognize people pretty quickly, and by smiling.
That's not words, brother. That isn't words, brother.
By this communication, all the same.
Yeah, but it's not words, brother.
No, that's not words.
Of course, it's not words.
That's just functioning. That's just a body functioning like a dog is functioning. Even a baby will fight when there is no sense of self. So
Animals.
It's just a naked functioning.
Yes, but don't we grow up and then acquire?
No. Yes and no.
We can't acquire things we don't already have. So all our means of communications are already within us when we're born.
But
they're
that's
not developed. It's well known. You can't run a marathon when you're born.
It has already nothing to do with you. Yes, there is a you growing up, and no, there is no you growing up. There's just simply a functioning. Like Vern is also saying, that are not thoughts or words, that there is a sound produced. There's just simply a sound producing like a bird is clapping its wings.
If everything,
and then a conditioned response.
So there is no experience of bird already. Suddenly, this started playing. Bird, there's only a story of a bird, of being born. So there's just the functioning. It was always simply just functioning. And somewhere, for some so-called individuals, there seemed to be the arising of a conditioned self and a conditioned response. But that's also innocent. There is no you growing up. There is just growing up. And in a certain level, yes, we can say there's a you growing up. when there is a personal you, which is a body. Yes, we all agree with that. That's just the language things claiming you to be a body and you growing up. But there was not a you as a separated something which was little, which has grown. It was already full to the brim. It was already just simply this.
I think it is a social need that made the ego grow. In the beginning, it was just the need for food, for drinking, for warmth. There was no social needs. But suddenly, after some, let's say, maybe 2 years old, 2.5 years old, there begins the social conditioning with all the intellectual needs, which are forming, creating, and maintaining the sense of separation.
If
Of course,
everything
yeah.
is green, then what is
All of
green?
that- go on.
Wendy.
Can I say this?
Yes.
If everything is green, then what is green? That's just an analogy that I have to say because
Exactly.
I think it covers it all.
Yes. If everything is green, there is no green.
If everything is mind, there is no mind.
Exactly.
And it's all green.
If everything is beingness, there is no beingness.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there is.
That means it's everything that Vern is saying. It's everything that we are all saying, and none of that.
And none of that. Exactly.
So
Yes.
seeing separate, like he's saying, that's it too.
Of course,
So,
that's it. Yes. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. You know, this is not about being wrong or being right. This is just, there's just the directness of whatever seems to happen, which may include this is me, I have grown up, I'm sure about it, everyone sees me as an individual, my mother made me, and all that may be believed, may be felt, may be sensed real or not. It's already just simply this.
Yeah.
Oh, so many concepts. But my view, for me, it seems to be that the most necessary thing is to experience the thoughtless state. That for me,
in reality, there is no experience.
One has to experience the thought-free state. That is essential. That is my view. And I just wanted to put it out there that one has to experience non-dual awareness, because that's what non-duality is. It's the experience of non-dual objectless awareness, otherwise known as samadhi. And Shankara himself, the father of Vedanta, said that nirvikalpa samadhi, which is something I experienced millions of times over the years, nirvikalpa samadhi is essential for liberation. And I happen to agree with that. So there you go.
I agree, Tony. But when you say this need to be experienced, when that is the case as you describe it, there isn't even an actual experience anymore, because
Well, I'm just using language, aware of the limitations of language. Yeah, that's fine. That's all.
And that which seem to be experienced are not two anymore. So we cannot talk about an actual experience anymore.
Okay, that's why, exactly why people have to stop talking about this and just do it. That they have to stop talking. There's too much talking.
But shut the fuck up then.
Yeah, right.
That's the best word of
What
the
are you
week.
talking about, Tony? Then shut up.
Mind alone is the obstacle. Mind alone. Simple as that. Very simple.
And I agree with Tony, but when it comes to that so-called, there is no experience anymore, because, like I said, experiencer and that which is experienced melt. There is no, so what? There's nothing left to say.
Yeah, object subjectless. No object and no subject.
So I just want to say, Vern, that I'm really, really deeply impressed by your story, the way you pulled yourself out of that depth, despair. I have to say, really, really amazing. I just wanted to say that.
It's very kind. Cheers, mate. Appreciate that.
I just read, I think it was yesterday, a phrase that came up in my timeline. When your need for enlightenment is so strong as a person who needs to breathe oxygen, then you are ripe. Is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard these types of phrases also. Yes, only when when it's burning so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Whatever.
no, but I don't want to.
Yeah, that brings up the question of what is the ripening, because it's like if you have an apple tree, you can give the tree water and fertilizer and all that stuff, and you can see the apple, grow and get ripe and ripe, and all of that seems to have some kind of causality behind it. But then when the apple gets ripe, there's a moment when it just spontaneously falls off the tree, and that be related to causality. But all the stuff before in helping the apple to get ripe, has a validity in terms of a path. So this is where the path comes in. But when the apple just falls off the tree, well, that's just some people call it grace or something like that. But sort of quantum leap related to causality. But there you go.
Well, then I got a question. What do you all consider time being? Because all of that would take time. And is time just constructs and imagining?
Yep.
Well, I would say yes and no. It's been 2 hours almost. So there seems to be, but there's no actual experience of time. Time is in a way also a construct. It's not felt. Sometimes I heard somebody say only people in a deep depression have a long life. People who are happy have a short life. So the so-called experience of time in a certain way, or the lack of that experience, is just, there's not. Some say God didn't invent 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours. It's all types of around the sun and all that. So is there time? Yes, but there's no time for you. There isn't actually time to begin with. There's no past. There's no future. There isn't even now. So is there time? Yes and no, and not even. It's all a matter of perception, beliefs, claims, sensations. I would say when there is no you, there's no time.
Agreed.
Right?
And similarly, if you was the first person on the planet, time as you know it in this instant wouldn't exist like that. It just simply wouldn't exist. But it shows you what a human-made concept it all is.
Beautiful.
Great one, Fern. Well,
there's no time in deep sleep.
We'll have some of that. Just thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, and it's funny, there's not even an experience in deep sleep. When it's always funny when asked in the morning table, how was your sleep? There is just an idea, when there was a waking up or not, that sleep was bad, but there's no experience of deep sleep. There's no one experiencing deep sleep.
If you weren't there in deep sleep, then everybody would have this experience of suddenly losing 7 or 8 hours every night without knowing what the hell it was.
Well, no one.
But the fact you are there in deep sleep, which is why you can say, I slept well, or I slept, because you were there just experiencing absence.
No.
You were experiencing absence of experience. Because
absence of experience, but there was no you
experience the presence or the absence of an object.
No one is experiencing deep sleep. No one separated you. There's no one.
no one is experiencing deep sleep because there's no content to experience. Because this also relates to time. You only have a sense of time if you're experiencing content, some object or something. There has to be something happening in space and time to have the sense of time. But in deep sleep, there's no space and time. So there's an absence. There's no content. So there's no experience.
As there is a non-dual awareness, like there's no experience as in deep sleep.
But,
Experience and experience merge. There is no such thing. There's not an ability to talk about an experience in the lack of an experiencer and something else, which is a non-dual experience.
But actually, Advaita wouldn't agree. Advaita would actually say you are experiencing deep sleep, but you're experiencing absence.
Yeah, but you know, fucking 3,000-year-old guys, you know.
I mean, but well, then you have to examine if it's true, right? So you have to find out if that's true.
You know, it's hard to, you know, when it comes to truth, there's no way of separating yourself from this. If you want to go on those terms, what is true and what is real, Tony, which are just labels, there's no way to know if this is actually happening or not. There's no way to separate yourself from this to know if this is happening or not.
What's specifically happening? Just any experience?
No, but there's anything. There's no actual absolute knowing of anything, as there is no you able to separate yourself, which is already not there, from the idea that something is happening or not happening already. There's no one able to step outside of this, outside of the idea or feeling that they are.
You send a message and can see when you get it.
It's just simply not possible.
Your separate meeting.
Well, what do you know? Well, I mean, if I would say nothing, that's just another knowing, that you don't know nothing. You know, knowing nothing or knowing anything is just still knowing. So
say that knowingness is self-evident.
Well, I would say there's just self-evident. It's not evident for someone else. There's just self-evident. All self.
But that's knowingness, isn't it? That's a knowingness.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can't know something that appears and disappears. You can't know that. Because if you really knew it, it wouldn't appear and disappear. So the only thing you know is yourself, which is self-evident to you, right? I mean, so that's not an object. Knowing yourself as the subject is self-evident. But knowing any object, anything that you can be known, it can be known is not you, and therefore it's not real.
No, but then again, anything may seem to be objectified, including impersonal me or knowing.
That's not what's really happening. That's just language making it sound as if that's
but what is there out? You know, we come back to what Vern is saying. There's nothing outside language. So when you say that's language, yes, but at the same time, it's all language, Tony. There's just languaging.
Impersonal is outside language.
Oh, but that's just more language claiming there to be something outside of language.
If you remain quiet and not say it, then it is outside language. It's only when you say it that it's language. If you remain silent...
Well, who knows that?
Because it's self-evident to you. You cannot exist.
To say that there is nothing outside language, it's a bit too much, Sander.
Yeah, okay. You cannot say
too
I am
limited.
Well, let me put it like there's no you outside of you know, there's nothing outside and not even nothing. I wouldn't even say that there is nothing outside of language. Because nothing is just something which is not objectified into a thing, then we call it nothing. There's just the innocent objectifying going on also.
there's no language, if there's not one single word in your mind, you still know that you are.
Well, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, because you don't need a thought to know that you are, that you exist.
In a way, you exist because there is a thought that you are.
Oh no 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 no. That would be a dualistic explanation of it. If you needed a thought to know that you are, that would be a mistake, because clearly you don't need a thought. If there is not a thought in your mind, then you still know that you are. You don't disappear. You don't cease to exist, even if
Yeah,
there's
but
no thought in your mind.
okay, the impersonal. I agree. Yes, the impersonal. Let's put it that way.
Hearing.
This, I would say, this doesn't need words for this to be already self-evident. But when you
Words
put
at
it
all.
like it get mixed. So I would say, whatever is happening doesn't need anything to be already self-evident, to be already completely this. So in that way, I agree. But when you start talking about people seem to mix that up. We talked about it, about the personal. Yes, this
Yes,
doesn't need anything to be already this. Yes.
take yourself to be the limited, yeah, then you do. But if you don't take yourself to be the limited self, then then there's the difference between personal and impersonal is, well, there's just no difference.
This doesn't need anything. This to be already
It's just a flow. Whether the personal arises or whether it doesn't arise is of no concern here. Whether there is a person or not a person doesn't matter.
Well, that's great. And if it matters, then it's just simply what matters. I mean, I totally agree with you, Tony.
That's the thing. There's no if. It won't.
Oh, no, but that may well be the case there and here.
May not. No, it may not change. No,
Yeah, but if I'm
it will not
talking,
change.
no, I'm talking about other so-called characters, Tony. If that is just simply there, if it matters, it matters. If there is a mattering between personal and impersonal, that's equally what it is. You cannot just simply dismiss this to be something else. It's already just this.
I mean, I think it's important to say that if I'm saying that won't change, it's important to say that, because people who are, in a seeking position or whatever, if they get the idea that they're all over the place and there's nothing they can do and there's no control over anything,
No one is
and they're
saying
just
that here, Tony.
you see, that's kind of lost. That's being lost. So
Tony,
it's useful that things can change and stay that way.
buddy, hello. No one is saying that here. No one is saying that here, what you just said.
I'm just being emphatic.
Yeah.
About to say.
Go to those meetings where they speak in that language constantly, that nothing needs to happen and all that.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. Because remember, so I think something has to happen. But that's before.
Yeah. Anyone have a high need to say something, or Claire maybe?
Yes, that when there is no separation, as Sander is saying, there is an implosion into the timeless now. And there is not much to say, really. It's the miracle, it's happening, it's on. And not even that, not even the miracle.
Exactly.
Because if everything is a miracle, what is a miracle? As Wendy would say.
Mystery, really, isn't it?
Mystery. Eternal mystery. Sweet eternal mystery.
Beautiful. I've got to go, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Vern, thank you for joining. Nice to meet you.
And you guys.
Take care.
See you
Bye.
guys.
We're going to round it up. Wendy, beautiful. Thank you for being here. Tony, always a pleasure. Gio, good that you. I don't want to ask if you put your wife aside and took this meeting.
No, I had to go to downtown, but I fixed things pretty quickly.
Okay, and I want to one quick question before you terminate this meeting, Claire. Have you done the procedure already or not for the
No,
heart?
I am waiting for the bureaucratic stuff.
Okay, good. What
For
was
the
the
medical.
yeah.
Sorry?
No, I was just wondering, and then I thought also, no, probably it takes some time to recover, and maybe he's not here. But well, keep us updated. You know, when you.
Okay. Thank you. I will.
Tony,
What's the health system like in Brazil? Is it pretty reasonable, or
What is what?
the health system in Brazil?
Oh,
Is
it
it
depends.
kind of-
We have many different health systems that some work well, the others doesn't work that well, but it depends, But for me, now it's no problem. I will have to wait maybe a few weeks, and the procedure will be done.
Oh, right.
Thank
I have
you.
one
Take
question.
care, Gio.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
take care. One question. Claire and Sylvan, I saw an announcement coming by on Facebook. Two pictures of you and Sylvan on the picture. You shortly want to share just a minute. What is it about? Maybe can people join? What is it? Please.
Yeah.
Sylvan, you can also share. I mean,
It's well, I can share and Sylvan can add. Maybe it's
No, that's fine. We've got something to share.
you trust me to share it.
Well, we're not separate, are we?
We're gonna have exactly the same thing to say. It's we decided to podcast about relationships because relationships is something that is just really interesting and everybody experiences, and we get on very well. We sort of bounce off each other quite well. So yeah, we're doing a podcast series of podcast episodes, about half an hour, 40 minutes, just recording ourselves talking about relationships, and it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and it's just the
Okay.
Creative Mind relationships. Let's talk relationships is what it's called.
and is it weekly? Are you just started with this? And are there certain days or dates or times?
It's sort of whenever we feel like it. We've got some free time in Sylvan is 15 minutes away, so if we're both free, we will just do it. So when the cat's not meowing in the background is usually good. So
Great.
yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for all the input, Sylvan, also. And again, it's all just however it seems to be. Nothing wrong.
I hope you
love.
realize I tend to shout because it's not because I'm not shouting. I'm very passionate.
Oh
So
yeah, I shout also the whole time. No offense taken, Sylvan. Really, no offense taken. I'm also shouting. I love the enthusiasm. Tony also. It's always full on fire. Gio. There's nothing wrong with it, And I love the addressing of the so-called personal and the sense of doership and the ability to do things also. So it's all beautiful. Whatever seems to come up. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining and being enthusiastic. Take care. Have a beautiful night. Sleep well, Tony. Wendy, take
Sleep
care.
well, Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Wendy.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.